What we've got here is failure to communicate.
From sunny Southern California, we bring you Meet Bridget, a podcast for building confident communication and female badassery. We spotlight women who have bridged the gaps in their lives by building strong relationships and speaking their teenage dreams into reality.
Motherhood's definitely the most hard and rewarding. I feel lucky enough that I have other people doing some of the stuff. They've helped to heal things I didn't even know, cobwebs that were still there and I'm still working on.
Welcome back to Meet Bridget. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Kashia Rosenberg, and I'm here with my best friend and founder of Bridget, Asha Gabriel. Together, we run a confidence and communication platform for teen girls called Bridget. Welcome back.
We have an incredible episode for you all today. We're so thrilled to welcome the amazing entrepreneur, health expert, world-renowned celebrity fitness guru, mom, and host of the KISS Keep It Simple Sexy podcast, Christine Bullock, to our show. Christine is an incredible force of nature with so many accolades and accomplishments under her personal and professional belt. Certified in yoga, Pilates, general fitness, massage therapy, prenatal and postnatal fitness, and nutritional counseling, she's coached and mentored thousands of women from ages 16 through 90, and everyone from novices to professional athletes.
She's the creator of multiple fitness and nutrition programs, including Evolution 20, Super Shred, and she continues to craft innovative workouts for the top-rated Fit On and Brooke Burke body apps. She is a recurring contributor for many magazines and websites, including Oxygen Magazine, Style.com, InStyle Mag, Women's Health Magazine, Men's Health, Glamour.com, Well and Good, Mind Body Green, Bustle, The Bump, and many, many, many more.
Her personal theologies have evolved over time, expanding from fitness to total body wellness, a brand founded on the philosophy that it's not just about how you look, it's about how you feel and function. In more recent years, Christine has taken total body wellness a step further and created an incredible line of wellness products called Kayo, which includes Kayo Body and Kayo Supplements. We can't wait to share the magic that is Christine Bullock with all of you today. So, welcome to the podcast, Christine.
Thank you. Sorry, everyone, for that long intro.
No, don't
I
apologize.
just turned 40 last week, so I guess, there's 20 years of or more of just
Hard work.
hustling, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're so excited to get into it.
We were like, "Oh, we have to include that part. We have to
I
include
know, I
that
was like,
part."
"Did I send that bio? I'm sorry."
No, you didn't. We
No.
pulled it.
Okay.
We love it. So no apologies for any bit of that.
When we say the many, many more, there was literally so much. So we really tried to condense all of the incredible things that you've done.
Yeah.
So
I'm
So
excited to be here with you ladies.
thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
We're thrilled to have you. We've been hoping you'd pop on for a while, and it's been really exciting preparing for this. And we're excited to dive into your foundational years because obviously you have so many accomplishments. And I can imagine, especially as a younger woman, people look to you and wonder, like, how did she manage to do all of these things? It can seem overwhelming for someone aspiring to be someone like you. So we'll love to just break it down today, start with your early years and unpack just all of the awesome wellness amazingness that you are. So,
Oh, thanks.
yeah. So,
I'm excited. I'll see what I can offer. Yeah.
yeah. Can we take it way back to where you were born, where you grew up, what you were like as like a little girl?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I grew up 45 minutes from the downtown, as we say it in Pittsburgh. And it was like, I had almost horses basically in my backyard and little suburb community. I'm an only child as well. My dad was a school teacher. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And, they were very religious in a good way, I think. We were Christian. And so it was like church every Sunday and whatever the church school was on like Wednesday afternoons. My dad was a teacher at the public school there. So I went to the public school. I live in California now, and like the kids are all in private school, not ours. But it's like, I just had like that basic upbringing. And huge family on one side. I had like almost 20 first cousins on one side. My third cousins went to school with me and
I
like,
love
would
that.
beat people up for me. Even though since I was an only child, it was nice. And then my other side was so tiny. I had like two little cousins, like completely different. Like one
Mhm.
side of the family, they're beating each other up every time I see it, and it's complete chaos. And then the other side of the family are like quiet little mice reading books. So I got a little bit of both, especially as an only child. I was definitely, I'm like an introvert extrovert where I'm very quiet and I need, if I'm actually even still out with people a lot, I absorb a lot of that energy. And so I like a lot of time by myself to renew and rejuvenate. And I was like that as a kid. I was very shy, hated to be anytime, like in front of a crowd, in front of one person, anything like that. So, I mean, that's something that's developed over the years in order to provide the information to people. I knew I had to get better at that. And I mean, I was really active as a kid. Like I started ballet when I was 3. I begged for it, and I was a ballerina for like 17 years, 5 to 7 days a week, and summer camps and all that kind of stuff. I didn't really do much else. I did a lot of sports. I was like track and cross country because that's what my dad's run every day for 40 years. But I was a speed girl, blue medals. I did swimming. I did basketball one year. I did cheerleading like one year. Failed miserably at that one. But I had a lot of fun. And so I like to try different things.
Yeah, it sounds like you were immediately drawn to really, like, physical expressions as at a young age. Did your parents kind of, you know, put you into classes like that, or did you really just you were just immediately attracted? Okay.
I really begged for it. Yeah. Every single thing I went into, I asked to, try out. And even with ballet, I mean, it's funny because I love to dance and I love to be at the bar, but I actually hated the performance aspect of it, being in front of people and all that. It was just for me.
So, is that the actual ritual of moving your body that just felt so
Yeah.
good to you?
Yep. And still does.
I grew up with dance at a very young age too, and was also really, really shy as a young girl. And I remember feeling like the ways that I couldn't express myself with words, sometimes in dance, even just in a class, at the bar, I just felt like that was kind of my place to feel fully expressed. Did you have like a similar experience when you were young in ballet?
Absolutely. And that's the funny part too as an adult that I really had to step over that boundary that I had had because I could express myself with my body, but I wasn't as capable of expressing myself with words. And I ended up in college loving to write and all of that, and really because it was a liberal arts college geared into tons of writing. We had to write a thesis, all of that. But I could write things down, but to just speak it clearly, I wasn't able to. So that was something that actually dance, and I feel like I've heard from a lot of dancers, we go through that because we do use our bodies to express ourselves, and we don't use our words as much.
Yeah. Well, I love that point that you've already kind of brought up about, this journey you've had from starting with that physical communication and really having to adapt it to, a 360 communication in order to share all these things that you learned over the years. So we'll get into that because we love focusing on both confidence and communication skills in young women and how we can kind of build those in a variety of ways. So I love that. We'll have to kind of come back to that throughout the interview. What was school like for you? I know you said you were
Hated it.
shy. You hated
Hated it.
it.
Hated it. I feel
Yeah.
bad for my kids. I mean, luckily, my husband loved school. And, so I'm glad that he has that experience. But even looking back, I'm still like, "Oh, I would never wanna go back to school." College, I loved. I love learning. I love
Mhm.
learning on my own. Yeah, school I did not like. I feel and I actually one of my first jobs, I was a teacher. I went to study, in college to become an elementary teacher, and I just could not get with it. And my dad is a teacher for however many years. It's just too it's not regulated for the creative. I'm very creative. I probably had ADD and I probably have it now too. So I think different ways. And the way they were learning was just too, I don't even want to say boring. It just wasn't meant for me.
It's so very structured. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so very structured. And to be honest, when you're shy on top of it, there were all the years too, like I remember even though I was shy, I had one little girlfriend and somebody was, like, picking on her because it was, like, the big girls picked on her sister, so they're picking her, and I remember, like, defending her, and then years after that, the girls just being super bullies to me. So I went through a lot of bullying from, like, 7th grade on, and So it just wasn't it was just like self-protection mode all the time, it felt like. And around 7th grade too, I have to say, my parents went from I went from this perfect little bubble upbringing of like ballet and, going to church, da da da, to them me living in the middle of them in our house. My dad lived on one side, my mom lived on the other, and they just ran back and forth. No, well, they didn't run back and forth. I mean, my mom did, but like screaming at each other, fighting all the time. And I think finally, I mean, it might have been 6th grade or something, my dad finally moved out, but they had like a 5 or 6-year divorce.
Oh, wow.
So we went through this whole, like, trauma time, and, like, my mom suddenly went to work and left. I was, like, working at 15 just to really have food on the table too, you know what I mean? It was just, like, a whole transitional stage.
So you had to grow up quite quickly because
Quick.
you said 7th grade. I mean, that's a big moment of transition just as it is. That's like
Yeah.
13 years old. You're just moving into puberty and starting to, try and figure out a sense of
Yeah.
self. So that must have been really
Yeah, that's when they
difficult.
started fighting. 9th grade is when he left, actually. Yep,
Mhm.
mhm. Yeah, it was. I look back now, I think now, I mean, finally at 39, I'm 40 now, but this past year, I've really once you have kids, you start, "Oh, yeah," really diving into it because you wanna be the best parent you can be too, and I
Mhm.
like, always trying to cleanse out the gook to make sure I'm not, continuing it on through the generations, and you're just like, "Ugh, that was a
Mhm.
lot," you know?
Yeah, for
Mhm.
anyone, but I imagine as a an only child, did you find that you were trying to sort of naturally fall into the mediator role since you said you lived between your mom and dad on either side of the
It
house?
was I had grown up with a dad who worked a lot because, we're a middle class family. He had to work a lot, and he's a school teacher and a track and cross country coach. My mom was a stay-at-home mom at the time. She loved business and all of that, but she just wanted to be home for that point. So we were really close. So unfortunately, it really did put a split between me and my dad, and I just
Mhm,
ended up I mean, even though he taught at my school, I actually didn't really talk to him. I think like she sent me away to his house for a summer because I was being really bad. I mean, I wasn't even that bad, but you're acting out and you're trying to figure it out because no one's answering questions for you. Now I look back and I'm like, okay, or just totally, I mean, left me all on my own. And I'm only going into this because I know that all these girls I hear about it all the time, and even us as adults, like we all go through things like this.
mhm,
And you make it out. Okay. I didn't really have a relationship. I mean, even after through college, I mean, I ended up not talking to him, I think, completely for years. I can't remember how many it was. And it wasn't until I met my husband after college. It was actually through college. I put myself through college and met my husband years later at like 26, 27, and because we were going to get married eventually and all that, and just having a good male relationship in my life, I ended up starting to speak to my dad. And now we have a close relationship. He just stayed with us for like 10 days, got stuck here through COVID and all of that. So it's the longest he's ever been here. And he was like ready to
Mhm.
go after being around my 2 kids for so long. And my mom still lives with us. My mom lives with us. She moved out
Oh,
here
that's
eventually.
amazing. That's amazing. I really wanna get into I'm curious if you're open to sharing how you rekindled the relationship with your dad, because that's a big step to go from not talking to talking and having to get through that trauma. But you clearly transition and you guys sounds like you have a wonderful relationship now. I think it would be great to hear, what that process was like and, how you were able to bring some of those barriers down and in a respectful way, I'm sure it was difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely not having a male figure in my life, I went through some bad relationships. And really not having a
Mhm.
female in my life. You know what I mean? She just didn't have her opinion and of life because of her upbringing was
Mhm.
biased. It was just, and so I kind of always knew that. Like she'd always go on the attack of people right away. Like if somebody said something mean, and it's like, the world is falling. It was like a big thing. And I'd be like, they're just having a bad day. Like, I'm not going to take it personally. And so I had a lot of figuring out to do on my own. At a young age, that's also hard when you're just financially responsible. You're just doing it all. But in a good way, I got thrown into everything. And so, I went through a couple bad relationships, picked like potheads and not that there anything wrong with potheads, but in that situation, they weren't really amounting to much, I will say. Some emotionally abusive relationships as well, and thought I was the stronger person. I can help them. And then you finally come out of it and you're like, wow, they really did tear down my confidence. And I've always been a very confident
Mhm.
person. Um, I don't care if I fail. I don't care if I'm 2 pounds or 1 million pounds or acne or not acne. It's an internal thing for me. I'm happy with who I am. It's probably because I've been through so much already. But, it happens. You get into those relationships. And luckily, I was able to just say, I can't take this anymore. And so from Pittsburgh, it was right around that time. I was around 25, and I actually moved away from one bad relationship, although he then moved out and kind of stalked me a little bit,
Oh god.
to Los Angeles. And I was like, I didn't know anybody in Los Angeles. I just packed a couple bags and an air mattress and found a beautiful apartment in Santa Monica. And I worked a medical device job at this point. So I just worked out of my home and I traveled a lot. So it's not like I'm working, meeting friends here or
Uh-huh.
going to a job to meet people. So I was in my home working, or I started to run. And I really hate running, to be honest. It's not my favorite thing. Like, I'll dance, I'll do anything, but at that point in my life, I said I was like Forrest Gump. I would literally bleed through my shoes. I would run down Santa Monica. I would run like from Venice to Marina Del Rey or all the way up through Malibu and back, hours. I would run. I would just think. And it was a time like I started to change my thought patterns where even if I thought about my ex or something else, I would immediately say, okay, if I don't like that, then what do I want instead? Or if I miss that, okay, how can I apply that to the next relationship and just kind of change that brainwave right away? So I'm not thinking about the bad stuff always. And it's funny because I did not want a relationship. I wanted to be single. Like 3 months into moving here, I walked into a bar, if that was super local to me where I lived. And my now husband walked directly up to me. We talked for like an hour. It was late anyway. And he was like, I'd love to get your number and get together. And I was flying to Asia very soon, like within a few days. And I was like, well, I have a couple days. And he's like, yeah, me too. I'm actually going to Pittsburgh. And I'm like, why are you going to Pittsburgh? I remember exactly how I said it. He's like, I'm from there. It's my mom's birthday. He was like immediately like my family. I mean, when you feel, can't say I don't believe in soulmates, but when someone is like that energy will meant to be in your life. And so anyway, he's from Pittsburgh and we ended up dating when I got back and talking and stuff like that. And long story short is that a healthy relationship with this man, even though I wasn't ready, I tried to break up with him, and I would actually go on multiple dates sometimes throughout the day, a day. And I'd be like, just
Mhm.
take me home. And then I'd be like, Bob, what are you up to? I would say don't keep all your eggs in one basket till you're totally sure, because then you start to eliminate things. When you're just stuck
Yeah.
on one person, you have no idea. But when you have like a couple, you're like, yeah, I really don't like that. I really like this person better. So I kept going back. And then even when it got kind of serious, I tried to break up with him. And he was like, no. And I was like, no, 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 no. I'm just kidding. Like, I felt really bad. I was like, no, I think you're misunderstanding me. So I ended up staying because I was scared.
Yeah.
But he was so good for me and he's so healthy, that it healed parts of me that I was trying to heal other parts. And even though I wasn't ready, that relationship helped to fully heal those other parts to then start speaking to my father again. I mean, we're going to get married. And so that kind of ushered the conversation. I wanted to make sure he was there, but I just wanted to heal myself. It wasn't about like, heal my family or having to have a dad or having to have this in my life or whatever. It was just about becoming a whole person again, whatever that meant to me.
Yeah. I love this because I completely so it's really funny, there's actually a lot of idiosyncrasies in the way you met your husband, and then, like, you're talking about dating, going on multiple dates. I used to joke with Kev, who's my husband, I'm like, "Yeah, I used to have breakfast with one person, lunch with another." But it was like you're figuring out what you like and don't like after coming out of relationships that are just bad for you and you have, like, no idea what you're seeking.
It was the best time of my life,
It was
for real.
yeah.
I mean, because I was like,
Right.
that like no relationship, and then I'd fall
Mhm.
into like somewhat like a year or 2-year relationship, not so healthy, and it was just
Yeah.
like the best time. I mean, I had
Yeah.
the funniest like stories of like trying to hook one guy up who flew in from Florida, which I thought was business, to like somebody in the bar. It was my friend's
Yeah.
bar, and so I was like we're
Yeah.
trying to hook her up with like a girl that we randomly met, and then I was hiding around. I pretended to leave, and I was hiding around the side until he left, and I went back in to hang out with my girlfriends. Like, I'm just glad I had those stories
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I lived
yeah.
a
It
boring life
helps.
before that dating life.
Yeah, well, and I think it can be, like, discouraging when you do have those bad relationships and, it can affect your confidence and self-worth in the moment, but then looking back, I feel like when I met my husband, it was so clear to me because at that point, I had figured out all these things, like, "No, that's a no, that's a no." That
Yeah,
I would really have rather that had been this instead of what I did experience with that guy. It makes it, like, so clear. So, like, I
Yeah.
mean, with relationships, but also with jobs and stuff that you've tried
yes,
different things, realizing like, okay, I failed at that. I hated that. I spent
yes,
2 years in that situation or with that person or in that job, but you come out of it with a sense of clarity that is more than worth the time that you spent doing the thing or being with the person you
yeah.
just
I feel like I was delayed a lot for certain things, which I wish I would have learned a little faster, maybe if I had a healthier environment growing up. But I don't feel regret. I'm actually glad I went through all of them. Like, there's no regret in all of that.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly where I should be at whatever age it was. And kind of going back to the relationship, it's my personal power I took back, because in all of former relationships, even from 15 on, because I was shy, even though maybe I really want somebody that was a little older and intimidating, I never went for that, right? I never went for the person who actually intimidated me. I let the person pick me. And so, and even though I liked that person, I was always allowing that person to pick me. And so with my husband or with that whole dating time, I was picking the person. And it's the
Mhm.
same thing with jobs. Like, you're just taking your personal power back to what you like, instead of saying,
Yes.
"All right, I'll just get this job. I'll just take
Yeah.
this job."
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that point, I'd love to go back because you mentioned that you were working at 15 and then, you put yourself through college and then you majored in
Psychology, behavioral psychology and
okay.
education, yeah. Mhm.
Okay, and then you went into medical devices. So I'd love to kind
Mhm.
of follow that path, like starting with what you were working in
Yeah.
when you were 15.
Dunkin' Donuts. I make a
Love
mean donut. Could actually
it.
not eat donuts for, like, 20 years after that, or
Yeah,
bagels or
it's
coffee
scarred.
coladas. The smell of it was just like, ugh, I still don't even love them. So if you ever wanna get rid of a habit, just live in it.
I had the same experience at Red Robin. I'm like, I cannot walk into a Red Robin and smell it. I'm like,
Yes, exactly. Dunkin' Donuts, and then, my gosh, I worked at, like, Pizza Hut for a day, came home with pepperoni in my hair, I was like, "This one's not for me." I worked as a dishwasher for a day, was also, like, still not for me. But I did find a job at Glamour Shots. I forgot about this until recently. I mean, like, I was at, like, Giant Eagle pulling things forward. I had so many different jobs. But, Glamour Shots was kind of a fun one. It was at, like, our local mall. I did people's hair and makeup, people from our high school, but also, like, you guys all kind of know, like, a Glamour Shots type or
Yes.
whatever if you local. So we had, like, all the moms coming in their, like, lingerie and stuff. And to be perfectly honest, the photographers were really messed up. Like, they
Oh
were
god.
not, just like normal. So a little bit of weird atmospheres, but it was fun. That's when I started to do makeup. I had pulled that from ballet. I was still kind of dancing. I had to quit after a while because we didn't have the money. I couldn't really continue to pursue it, and driving and all that kind of stuff. I had to work. It was nice to be able to apply it there and be artistic. I actually went to Carnegie Mellon
Mhm.
University for a full summer too, right around then, and I studied drawing. So I just did their classical art, and we did portrait drawing and the bodies. We did, like, I forget what it's called, but like architecture, all of that. But my favorite part was having the nude model and drawing bodies. And it's funny, I just always, you see how through your life, if you start to look back, all those patterns that happen. Like, I love the study of the body. That's it. Like, that's all I have. I'm going to continue to do it. That's what my passion is. I mean, I only wanted to be a ballerina. That was it. I had no other dream in life. So when I had to kind of figure it out, I really had no idea. I actually went to massage therapy school right out of college. And I forget where else I was working at that time, but some odd jobs. And I took about a year and I did community at the same time to get some credits. Got the massage therapy, but I was so young again that the boys were like, "Yeah, I'm on a massage." And I was going to have all girl clients, but I was just because of that, I was like, this is not it. So I decided instead of being a starving artist, I don't want to starve. I want to make some money. So I went to college, and because my parents' divorce wasn't finalized, I got accepted to some like amazing colleges like Savannah College of Art and Design to like Fordham in New York. And I ended up going to Chatham University in Pittsburgh, which is a small all girls university, to stay home with my mom, or at least to stay in the same city to support her. Cause we had like no money because it was all being held up in the divorce. Plus, we're a middle class family. There was like no money anyway. It was such a blessing. Like, I'm glad I went to this all girls university. It really helped to clarify. I had great role models around me. I mean, they were all working hard, the girls, right? And then it was probably like 20 people in my class in freshman year. And then once you got into your specialty, there was like 5 people in my class. So even though they went out and they partied with all the boys everywhere and all that, everybody was really focused on school and doing the best they can. And you were kind of like an outcast if you weren't. You know what I mean? So it was just a great team to be around. Very liberal arts for me, like so much about recycling, so much women's studies in it. And my mom was a bit of a feminist, and so it was nice to just learn so much more and have that support of women in whatever you wanted to be. So I found out I loved my psychology teacher. Again, it was a study of the body, behavioral psychology. You just learn everything about anybody. And I actually wanted to be a child psychologist. And then I had done a lot of side work. And I just, even with the elementary ed, like you go in early to the schools, and I was in inner city schools. I just took it on too much. And so I was like, I'm going to adopt each child. Fast forward, I ended up adopting a child. So I probably would have. So it didn't end up being the job for me. But I got the elementary education degree and the psychology BA. During this time, I worked 3 jobs. So I was a librarian, which was fun. I became a yoga instructor my freshman year. So that's when I started teaching yoga and started teaching at the school. And then my girlfriend, who had ushered me into massage therapy and then yoga, ended up having a tumor kind of in her brain suddenly. She's totally fine now, but she couldn't drive, and they just had to watch it. So she was like, "Can you please take over my yoga classes?" So I got thrown into it right away, my own yoga class, which is a little intimidating, but that was one of the first times where you're just thrown in front of people. And I just started teaching there though. And I taught at the school, which I really liked because those girls didn't know I really didn't know what I was doing. It was a nice transition from one ballet, which I just put away because I'd done it professionally for so long, to yoga and working my body. And then I started working at the local Sephora, which was at walking distance. And we were one of the first Sephoras in all the United States. It was 20 years ago or more now. And it was so professional of a business. I love Sephora still, but I feel like it's gone downhill a little bit. Like, the education was there. I mean, how you respected the client. We had manuals so thick that we would go through, and you had classes and classes. The brand owners would come in and educate us, or the trainers, couple weekly. I mean, it was just such a great experience. So I worked there for almost 6 years because I worked there like a year after college as well. And I actually became a national trainer there. So then I went on to train all the employees. I'd fly to New York or San Francisco to train them in skincare and cellular health. Like, we would break down ingredients. We'd have 3 days for that, or 2.5 days, then like 2 days for makeup application. So I learned a lot about makeup application, and then like a day or a half a day or something like that in perfume. So I actually learned a lot. Like, I could smell things and I could read ingredient right away and see how they mixed and all that kind of stuff. So it was like, it was a fun job. It was so great. And then from there was a local plastic surgeon right down the street. He wanted me to open his like spa portion of his business and manage it. And he had no one else really running out of there, I think. And so I brought in some medical devices, managed the medical devices. Someone like me, I forget how they were rated, but I could actually do the treatments. They were microcurrent. Like, we all know New Phase, but these are professional versions of microcurrent. And so I do that, and IS Clinical, all that kind of stuff for him, and just brought in brands. Then the microcurrent machine ended up, the owner really liked me. So then on the weekends, I would travel around the United States with her and kind of like do the big medical shows. And so then she threw me on stage. We actually would build, she would build a stage where you, if you've ever been to these shows, like there's like little booths and stuff. She built a whole 360 stage. Just one time she just threw me on and I just went at it on a mic and they liked it so much they were like, "You're going to do this all the time for us." And so, again, another speaking where you just get thrown into it. And so I ended up doing that. And then she wanted me, she was like, "You need to get out of Pittsburgh." She's from Greece and, she lived everywhere. She lived in Hawaii. That's who I had to end up. Well, I'll back up. So she's like, "You got to get out of Pittsburgh." And even the plastic surgeon I worked for was like, "You need to get out of Pittsburgh." And he was so supportive. And he actually let me, wanted me to go with them full time. Now, I have to tell you, my jobs, other than the first original ones, that now from here on out are commission based. Never made salaries. I hustled. It was up to me to make that money. And so even like working from home, like those machines were like 20,000 to 50,000 or 70, total. And I would sell them over the phone. It was like selling the emperor's new clothing over the phone, basically, I said. And then I would go and I would train them. I would open up the spas. I'd tell them how to partner skincare. I would tell them how to continue to sell packages, make the packages, bring that client back, all that kind of stuff. Because I always had a knack for marketing and understanding what a client needs. You know what I mean? What that person needs and what's actually going to work too. Like this isn't like total salesy. Like this is actually your client's going to get the results by doing this. So this is how we have to do it. And that's when I actually picked up and moved to Los Angeles. And that's when like I'd go to Asia with them and do that and started traveling around the world. And that was like my first time doing that kind of stuff too. And then I mean, I'll just briefly, so then from here, I ended up getting another medical device job where they're fixation devices for plastic surgery. So I used to go into surgery with all the plastic surgeons here in Beverly Hills and Santa Monica, watch them peel the face off, put it back on, give it a nice little lift. And then I met Dr. Orden, who is the main doctor on The Doctor Show, which is like CBS, NBC for years and years. And he asked me to be his patient coordinator. And it's kind of like the dating. Remember how I said I fell into all of these jobs. I'm so grateful. I got so much amazing experience, but I was asked for all these jobs.
I think this trajectory is so interesting because they all sort like when you look back retroactively, they all, like you said, fit into this pattern of you just constantly being drawn back to the human body in whatever capacity that is. And so I love that you didn't start out knowing exactly what you wanted to be. In fact, it was like the opposite. It's like, I want to be a ballerina, but you couldn't do it. So you kind of had to figure out your pathway one step at a time. So when you encountered each of these experiences, did you feel like they were presented to you and you were saying yes, or did you actively seek them out? Or like, what was the thought process going on?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I wasn't even trying to figure out what I wanted in life. I was still in hustle stress mode of like, how much money am I going to make? So each time I was making more money. I went to the plastic surgeon. I was making more money. I went to the medical device. I had the opportunity to make more money if I was good at sales. I went to the other one. I was making even more money. It was great, And so it was more of a financial decision. And they were asking me. I wasn't seeking them out whatsoever. I mean, other than like leaving the microcurrent because the owner was just a little off her rocker. There was a lot of things going on that were not so great and everybody was leaving. That was the only time where I was like, I'm going to find another medical device job, but it was just I needed another job. But when I finally went and I was a patient coordinator for Dr. Orden, that was for a girl with ADD who's creative and da da da, and all you're doing is organizing surgery patients and numbers and prices. And then he's on TV. So he's like canceling or pushing surgeries. I was like, this is not the job for me. I love working with the clients. I'd go in but what I learned was I would work with the clients and I love to go in and I love to be like, he ended up having a lot of gastric bypass clients, which we don't get a lot in Los Angeles. But because he was on TV, people were flying in. You're left with these scars afterwards, right? I mean, hopefully you can treat them and they go away. But I was like, well, how are we going to prevent this from happening again? So I would be talking to them about fitness. I was still teaching yoga on the side. I was learning other fitness. Like I started to fall in love with bar, which had just basically launched. And I was like, let me tell you about this. How about this nutrition? I was still doing on my side research and fun stuff and that. And I was dating my husband at that time. And I was like, I think I just want to go be a trainer full time, but I'm so embarrassed. I'm already in my 30s. It's not a job. That's not a real job. And he was like, and I was making such good money. And he was like, you got to do what you love. And so I think it was even before we were married. I ended up quitting with his support. Actually, something happened with the job with their medical devices
Mhm.
and I got like a nice little payment. They actually had to let us all go. And then I went back and I got my like 1 year Pilates certification, classical. I got bar during that time from the Lotte Berk, which is it took a long time. It's not like your weekend training. It was like a month or something like that or two. I just started adding those certifications, the fitness training, the sports nutrition, the this, the that. So I took about a year and a half, 2 years to just bang it all out, start teaching, start coaching, doing all that kind of stuff. That's when I really started to decide this is what I want to do. I mean, and it
Yeah.
really it opened the doors just opened after that because I feel like
Yeah.
I was fighting, even though I was making good money and I enjoyed it. I loved learning all that stuff and I there was something missing. I can't explain it, but, I was just, like, knocking my head on the wall off the wall. When I made that decision to be a silly trainer, that's what it was in my head, a silly trainer, the doors just opened. I mean, I got so many amazing jobs, like, my first was at Equinox, which was just booming at that point, it just blew up. They put me in their videos, where again, blew up. I was in 2 of their videos almost right off the bat. I was on the covers of magazines. I was, like, the packaging for P90 X for Insanity. I was their girl in their ads, like, and I fell into modeling because of it. Like, I just literally fell into it, got one job, and then it was like, okay, we're just going to keep sending you out. And I was like, well, it's money, I'll go. But it just really opened my career. So the one main learning lesson I learned from this was whatever you want to do, take the step and the doors will open. When you're on the right path for you, the doors will open. It's easier.
I think especially it sounds like after you got over that, like, "Oh, what will everyone think of me becoming a trainer at 30 after going to college and doing this whole other job? Like, what will people think?" But then just getting over that and listening to that clearly very entrepreneurial spirit that you had from the beginning, kind of you went through, like, the sales jobs, which sales is very
Yeah.
entrepreneurial, but then even seeking even more of that independence and creativity and taking that leap. I love that story and how it's like it wasn't like you were 10 years old and you're like, you know what? I am going to run these businesses when I'm older. I'm going to have my own self-led
Yeah.
career. You didn't have to have that vision from the beginning, but while taking these opportunities and following your gut and what your true interests were, they came to you.
Yeah. And to be honest too, like my parents, they just didn't understand, so it wasn't their fault, but they weren't supportive of the arts. Even though I went to CMU, like they're like being an artist is not a job. Being a ballerina was never going to be a career for me. Like there was something that they so then being a trainer or something like that, which is kind of in the arts, I think it's not.
Yeah.
It was built into me. It was not a job. Even moving to Los Angeles was like, nope, 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 nope. Too big, too big. And it's like
Mhm.
they're not really that big of a decision. It's just you go for it and you can actually make money whatever it is that you want to do if you continue to pursue it in a smart way.
Yeah, that's such a great point.
Absolutely. During all this time, I mean, you very clearly established a lot of relationships because, getting these opportunities, they don't come to you unless you're presenting yourself in a professional way, you're friendly, people want to work with you. So during that time of your life, did you find were there specific things that you did to kind of develop your confidence, the way you were communicating, the way you were presenting yourself? Like how were there specific
Yeah.
tactics you were kind of using at that time?
For sure. I mean, the behavioral psychology for me, my mom always loved psychology, and I had to listen to psychology like audio cassettes growing up and like Tony Robbins, even she had me listening to that kind
Mhm.
of stuff. So it was always, I learned a little bit about it and in business actually, because she had me reading like Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like super tiny, but there's still lessons from that I really love.
Yep.
And then the behavioral psychology. I just learned a lot from that degree, and I think we can use it no matter what job we're in, as a mother, as a wife, whatever kind of relationship, to any kind of career, because no matter what you do, people are involved. Like,
Yes.
even if you're working with animals, guess who owns those animals typically?
Yep.
A person. And even with animals, you use it. So it was just so vital. Like, I knew, and I think too, working at Sephora. So I grew up and again in the suburbs, and everybody's just in Pittsburgh, people are really kind. I mean, you go to any city and they'll tell you, like, you kind of come back and they're just really nice people. Well, working at Sephora was like the one kind of downtown place where the wealthy lived, and the ladies were like my first taste of, like, cold, right? Or standoffish. So that was one of my first experiences where, like, Sephora, you have to be like, hello, welcome to Sephora. And then you get greeted wherever. And ladies, like, I'm young. Okay. I've always been treated. You're so young. I'm not going to listen to you. Right. And so they just like roll their eyes and walk away. And at first, I was so offended and hurt and took it personal. And then after a while, I just learned I'd go right back up to them. I put my arm around them. This is way pre-COVID when you could just touch people and it was okay. And I'd be like, "Are you looking at this?" And I would just turn it around till this lady who didn't want to talk to anybody is like my new best friend, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Just kinda
yes,
disarmingly charming.
the next job, well, not the next, but the microcurrent job, I had to sell to doctors, and so I better know my stuff. So I knew
Mhm.
I had to know cellular science so well, because that's how it works, that I could outwit the doctors. And then it was the same thing, especially with medical devices here in like Beverly Hills. They call those kind of medical device people Barbie and Ken, because typically they're attractive, but and it's a joke, but maybe they don't have so much brain. And then the doctors end up asking you on dates and stuff, and it can be a little bit of a sleazy job. But you know what? I've been through that my whole life, and because I've been on my own, and I knew, like, I'm not having this. So yeah, I'd go in and I would know my stuff, and they'd be like, kind of, and then I would know my stuff and outwit them so much that they would respect me. And then that
Yeah.
was always the thing, was like, I need to educate myself. I need to know everything I can about this, and I'm going to get my job done, so that I can't be put in that situation. Even in the,
Right.
photography, and like being in Los Angeles, I look back, I'm so lucky with like photographers and all that kind of stuff. It can be super sleazy, and you hear, especially with the Me Too movement that came out with the actresses and all of that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like I was in those situations, and I ended up becoming respected by those people, where they like tried maybe to ask me out on a date. It's like now I look back and I'm like, "Oh, was that when they were doing
Yeah.
that?" But it ended up
Yeah.
being like, nothing for
Yeah,
me.
you
Yeah.
knew how to
Yeah, it
field it.
wasn't exactly.
There's such an important lesson to take out of this because, again, it's like what I'm hearing is you didn't set out with any of these things with a specific intention in mind, but you continued to grow in a direction and you were open to learning these lessons. You listened to your intuition. And like you said, you can do anything you want to do if you do it in a smart way. So I think now, with the way that technology is and how, any piece of information is accessible at the tip of your fingertips, when you were doing this, it wasn't like there was, Instagram to market all of these things. You weren't relying on social media to create relationships. You had to really put in the work. And I think that's something so important for our girls to hear now too, because there are all of these new tools at our disposal, which are phenomenal. But
Don't focus just on them. Yeah, I agree.
exactly. The end point is like you're still talking to another person. So if you can focus on that and creating these relationships and like you said, like making sure you know your stuff, like then that's how you put the work in and continue to gain value from all of these experiences.
And I feel like with social media, even if you're in the arts, of like if you're in fashion and you're dreaming of fashion or actress or whatever, if you're in fashion, then you should be putting out knowledgeable things and really
Mhm.
educating people. But you need so much more, or you're going to end up empty. If it's
Mhm.
just based on what you're getting off of social media, even if you're getting side jobs and this, like, there's just something to evolving and expanding and just working hard. Like, that's why I guess I've always been like, I mean, my husband knows this. Like, we could split up and whatever can happen, and I'm totally fine.
Mhm.
I'm that.
And that gives you that personal power that you
Yes.
talked about, like, kinda taking back when you first started that relationship and in that stage of your life. Just being able to know that you can always land on your
Yep.
feet.
And my husband loves that too. I mean, that's what he
Yeah.
continues to find so attractive, where I've been in other relationships where you're like, "What are you doing? Where are you?" I'm like, "I don't care. Go ahead, go out."
Totally. Yeah, women can feel sometimes, especially young women, that when they're getting into a relationship or a job or approaching social media, that they need to be, like, pleasing and available to
Yes.
others. Especially, I think this happens with pretty girls,
Yes.
that it's like you need to go and young models that when I was working in modeling, I would see young girls that were just so eager to please. They're like, "These are the authority figures, and I need to just do whatever
Yes.
they need or make myself whatever they
Yeah, yeah.
need, in order to succeed, and it's actually, like, quite the opposite. It sounds like clearly you're very beautiful inside and
Yeah.
out, but it sounds like it almost also led you to over prepare in all of these other
It
areas of your life
absolutely
so that
did.
when you were in those situations, your preparation was shining even stronger than,
Mhm.
the physical, beauty and everything that maybe got you into a modeling gig or a training gig or, one of your various
Yeah,
jobs.
absolutely. I mean, I even look back to like you're saying that like pleasing people. When I first moved here, I didn't know anybody. So 2 months in, I was like, I got to meet somebody and I got to do something creative because I was just doing business all the time. So I was like, I'll take an acting class. And now, listen to me, I'm not an actress. I hate it. I told you I hate talking. I actually love talking now in front of people of like things that I love. But ask me
Yeah.
to read a script and I'm like, oh God. So I can't act. Anyway, so I went to this like top acting class, little did I know. And she ended up throwing me into whatever it is where you're in front of producers right away. And it ended up then that sleazy producer, or whatever he was, asked me out on a date or just like asked me, you know what I mean? I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, maybe I will be an actress. You don't know." And
Yeah.
I ended up feeling the intuition because you said go, I really did. I didn't
Yep.
realize I went with my intuition a lot. And I ended up not going, but he was one of the main people on the Me Too thing. I was like, "Oh my God, thank
Oh,
God."
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
So
gosh.
listen to your
Dodged
intuition,
bullet.
ladies.
Yes. The gut's a powerful, powerful thing.
I mean, you have so many things going for you right now. I'd love to kinda dive into some of the various, like, more celebrity training outlets that you
Mhm.
expanded into, some of these programs you developed working with Brooke Burke, and then, hear more about Kayo and your entrepreneurial ventures too.
Yeah, I mean, so when I started to really pursue fitness full time, I loved it. And it was actually the fitness modeling that taught me a lot because at one point I'd go in, I've always loved more of like a creative movement, within fitness. But, I
Mhm.
started actually lifting weights in a gym of professional weightlifters when I was 15. My mom needed to go because of, like, back pain, so she took me. So I knew a lot about weightlifting, and so I loved it, but I liked that kind of creative Pilates, yoga, movement, and so I mixed them. I would mix them, and then within the fitness modeling, one day actually on one shoot, I'd be required to throw my leg behind my ear, and hold a yoga pose forever, and then at the next moment, I'd have to jump rope for like, however long. And then the next moment, I'd be throwing a tire. So I had to be really
Mhm.
good at everything. I had to be
All
powerful.
those things.
I had to have agility. I had to have balance. I had to have flexibility. I had to have it all. Well, when I was like that and just doing these like mixed up workouts and making them super short too, I was in the best shape of my life and it was so easy for
Yeah.
me. So I was like, wow, this is it. I've really found, and I felt my best too. So that's where Evolution 20 came from. That literally they're called like agility, power, endurance, bar class, you would like hold it for 20 million reps. So that was like your endurance, like burning
Mhm.
out the muscle. So you're tricking your body each day. And as much as I love, like, Los Angeles, I never wanted a location. I didn't want there's so many things I didn't want. I didn't wanna manage manage because you end up not being creative, you're just managing people at that point,
Yeah.
but I didn't want the clientele, I hate to say it. I
Yeah.
wanted to bring the education that I had back to all of Middle America or everywhere else, right, than just the big
Yeah.
cities. And so, it allowed me having worked on set and on DVDs and all that for so long, I was like, I can do this. And my husband got behind me and we produced it ourselves. We had everything. We had a 2-day shoot. We did 12 videos or something like that in 2 days, and had my
Wow.
friends come in for different videos and be, in the back, full makeup, all that kind of stuff, food, catering. And so we produced Evolution 20 and packed it. I mean, it was such a learning experience. I didn't know anything about the other side of it. And I had a manager at the time who helped to just, get it out there. It's still selling, to be perfectly honest, on the fitness sites and all that, and get it on app and all that. And then just followed up with like super shred, a little faster, a little quicker. But I always believed in these 20-minute workouts and mixing up your programs. Like, you just think like an athlete. The athletes with the most beautiful fit bodies are really good at all. So if you just look at it like a football player, and to be honest, I don't know what positions are called, but the ones that have to run fast, jump over
Yeah.
people, right? Power through and hit. Like, if you can do it all, you're going to automatically, not just the guys that hit hard, right? And then stand there and
Yeah.
eat really a lot. Soccer players, it's the same thing.
Mhm.
Swimmers, you're an athlete. So let's just think like an athlete
Yeah.
and do workouts like an athlete. And so that's what I created. And I ended up going through other health issues at that point. Even though my workouts were short, I'd have like, long days on set where you're doing fitness, or
Mhm.
I'd have long days training people where I'm eating like 2 smoothies a day because it's just back to back to back to back to back to back, and then munching a lot at night. And a lot of trainers actually have these health issues because of the same things, And so then I went through a lot of other kind of like hormonal health, fertility, all this kind of stuff, because different forms of fitness and nutrition and being a vegan, I was for a while, flung my body into hormonal imbalance. And so then I got to learn a lot about that. Like, these are all just like learning experiences that I'm so grateful for, because I get to share them with anybody that wants to hear about it, and how I ended up healing myself too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that is a really important story to share too, because we see a lot of girls that are so hard on themselves now, whether it's because they're comparing or they're, trying to brand themselves for like the rest of their life at like 15. And I think there's really something to, how life moves in waves, and you can follow your intuition and be on exactly the right path, but there will still be moments where you hit burnout. And then, so what do you do and how do you course correct? And I would love to hear that from you.
Burnout and boring, but thank God for the boring, because you'd be like burnout if you were always just going a mile a
Yeah.
minute. Yeah, course correct. I love that. Wow, how do I correct? I don't know. I think parenthood has also taught me a lot. I still love my job. I mean, my husband and I on Mondays are like, bye. The kids. I hate to say it, but we love those moments with our kids. I learned to balance at least a little bit more, where like it's taught me. So when I first had my first daughter, Remy, when she was born, I tried to do it all the time. So in the evenings, I was trying to
Mhm.
work and be with her. On the weekends, I was trying to work and be with her. And I thought, this is not working for me. So very quickly into it, I learned I got to focus on my work when I'm working. And even during work, then I'd be like, oh, you have to go feed her. Even though we had help and stuff, I wanted to do it all. You can't. So I just learned I'm here for this and I'm here for that. And it's the same thing with whatever, you're trying to do. You take those moments to really focus, but remember to find those other things for you that free you and free the weight from you of whatever it is. If it's work, if it's what you're focusing on, if it's who you are and what you're thinking about yourself, because then you're not so stuck in that like trailer of your mind of like
Yeah.
these little things, because it's the creativity that really opens you. Or I mean, even recently, like we went away for my 40th birthday last week. We never take just like a little trip like this where we don't do anything. It's
Yeah.
moments like that that we need. And especially, I mean, for the young girls too, like just talking body types, because you brought that up, or, body image. Yeah. I mean, social media is so hard. I think about my two daughters, growing up,
Yeah.
and when I was in fitness, it was like, you're too skinny, you're too muscular, you're too big, you're too this, you're too that, your abs,
Mhm.
your thighs, you're this, da, 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 da. And you heard it all. And I guess that's when I just kind of fully got over it. Because with my hormonal stuff, I gained tons of weight. I can put it on pretty easily because I still have PCOS, but it's something that I just kind of know how to control. But I don't lack confidence because of it. If my weight starts to go off or I see cellulite, I know that internally I got to get something back on track. So it's a sign for me, like, am I just eating like Cheez Its every single night with my kids? Like, what's happening and why am I doing that? So, how can I be healthier for them and for me? But it's just not something like it's experience, guys. It's not about your body. It's not about your butt to your waistline relationship,
Mhm.
which we see a lot here in Los Angeles. And even my girlfriends talk about for in our 40s and 50s. But it's about what you've accomplished and what you do. And I have to say too, whether you're young or whether you're 40s or 50s or 60s, guess what? The women I hear and the girls I hear, same things. And when they're
Mhm.
lacking something, they're lacking it. And when they're focused on their body image only, it's because they are lacking experience and encouragement or a healthy relationship. So let's go back to where we are and figuring out what we need in our life to make us feel good, you know? Like, that's not a big deal. I get too many other things to focus on.
Yeah, what I'm hearing, in kind of the way you're describing things is an ability to not just focus on, like, the result. Like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, my hips are too big," or "I have saddlebags," or "this flab here," or "cellulite," or whatever it is, and they get so hyper focused on this result or problem or whatever. And I hear, like, a really healthy ability. It's like, yes, you work in fitness, you work in beauty. Clearly, like, aesthetic is part of what you've always loved and part of your job. So it's not like ignore what you look like and just, be a soul in the world. But, you have an ability to say, like, okay, if I am feeling slightly less comfortable in my skin or how I'm looking or whatever, yeah, like, let's look instead of just focusing on this thing and hating it, let's say, "Okay, well, what is in my control? What can I kind of work on and refine and take care of myself better so that these things, are minimized to the best
And
of my
why I've
ability?"
always loved fitness and even nutrition too is because they're tangible. So when I don't know where to
Yes.
start with my emotions, I don't know what's missing in my life right now. I'm in confusion, but I'm just not happy. And I'm not even sure if I'm not happy because that's how lost I am. What I can start to do is take these active, tangible steps to take care of myself through minimal workouts, moving my body, and eating nutritious foods. And guess what? It tricks your body because you're starting to repair your cells, your cells get healthier, your brain gets healthier, you get serotonin, you get more focused and energy. And so it clarifies other parts of your life too. You start feeling good about yourself. So if you're in an unhealthy relationship, you start seeing that you're in an unhealthy relationship because you're
Mhm.
more confident internally in yourself. And yes, I never work out. I mean, I just through the years I've learned like it is about feeling good. Even in being in skincare and wellness, and we won an award for best cellulite treatment for our serum. We have a gua sha, which helps to break it up underneath. What is cellulite? I mean, yeah, I'm going to talk about it anyway. Like, I don't mind if I have it. I don't mind if I don't have it, but it is a sign that I've not been treating my body correctly. Yeah, it's genetic, but there's a lot of environment that turns it on.
Mhm.
So if my body's dehydrated and I don't have enough water in my body, if I don't have enough nutrients, that fascia is going to get really dry and hard and attach. If I've had injuries, if I'm not working my body in the right way, if I'm sitting on my butt a lot at a computer, right? That's how we get it. So, I mean,
Mhm.
easiest thing. I'm not treating it because I care what people think. I'm treating it because I'm going to repair that so it doesn't age more rapidly and I don't have pain there. It doesn't start to move up into other, portions of my body because the fascia wraps around your entire body. And so all these like little signs, I'm treating it for my total well-being.
Exactly. I
Right.
love that, and I love that that's your philosophy, like, your products clearly exemplify your years of experience, like, just hearing your story, you can see where working with a plastic surgeon and, working with skincare and then working your fitness jobs, like, how those have all come together to create this incredible line that's Total Body Wellness and KO Body and KO Supplements. I love that so much, and I think it's so important, especially in the age of now, but anytime, any period in your life to listen to your body as it's getting you through the day and to, like, respond to that internal stimuli. So, like, I have a headache. Do I need to drink more water? Or, like you said, cellulite.
Not just pop an Advil right away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like,
Right, like, you can have more
Mhm,
curiosity and, like, patience with this biofeedback system that is our
mhm.
body.
and it's incredible. I mean, you're like the master of knowledge at this. It's like if you respond to the messages your body's giving you, it will react and heal itself. And then maybe like let's talk about the Advil, like once you've like listened and acted on it and communicated with yourself.
So it's like exactly, I never get headaches, but if I get a little pain, I'm like, "Oh, what I eat?" Because that's a food allergy for me, right? But I'm so in tune with what did I just eat, or if I get a tiny little belly ache now because I don't get many anymore. Okay, what did I just eat? What is my body not handling? So I don't do this again. But if you are that in tune with your body, how much more in tune are you going to be with the signs around you? Kind of like falling into these jobs or not falling into these jobs. It's helped me to be very aware, or just like, oh, I feel that my daughter needs me right now, right? And just being like, I'm going to drop everything and see what's going on.
Right.
You just become aware, more in tune with those opportunities in your life. I mean, even Kayo, it was intuition meets experience meets timing. And so for me, I was doing the fitness programming. Actually, I was working on a TV show in Asia. I had a really fun experience. That was one of the things too, where I got to do like 2 seasons of a reality show over there. I was like the fitness expert and judge, but I was like peeing in holes on the floor in my Louboutins, like in the middle of like nowhere. It was just really fun,
Yeah.
cool, different experience, especially from girl Pittsburgh, never traveled growing up. It was just really fun. Anywho, so that's where I started to create KO. And it ended up, a girl who was a lawyer with my husband came up to me. The thing was, and I just only want to say this because you got to listen to these moments and you don't have to rush things. So I learned through
Mhm.
life that God puts things in my heart. I believe anything, any passion that is in your heart that you want to do is meant for your life. But they've helped to heal things I didn't even know, cobwebs that were still there and I'm still working on. Timing, or you both have to align. And so I learned that over the years. And I had been looking for body care. I had all these pregnant clients. I was aging. I was a fitness model, seeing changes. Nothing was on the market. Coconut oil doesn't work, guys. Doesn't have the nutrients, sits on the surface of the skin. Please stop using it. It just doesn't work on your body.
Yeah.
And these like straight up oils, especially if you're just getting them from like Whole Foods. We need delivery methods and
Yeah.
you need more nutrients than that just for your skin. So, and then there was like La Mer, $300 plus, and also
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
so, honorable ingredients in there. So I'm trying to, and then I'm not a do it yourself kind of girl because I know the stuff at home, like you rub some avocado on your face, guys, not great. Again, you want delivery methods, you want a little science in your skincare. So I'm just
Love it.
waiting for it. I'm just like, how do I do this? I'm researching everywhere. And I just in my heart so deep, and I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna make a skincare brand. Maybe 1 year later, maybe a little less, this woman came into my life and is like, I don't know if you know this, but my family made one of the first anti-aging skincare brands with one of the top plastic surgeons here in Beverly Hills. We sell it worldwide. We have our own lab now. I'm looking for body care and I can't find it. I was like, it's me too. I've been so passionate. It's
Yeah.
just been in my head like nonstop. And we started the business together. I ended up buying her out, and taking over. But, what an amazing experience. And it really was the perfect timing and the perfect preparation and the perfect opportunity that came in to allow me to not be working out of my garage. Had I just been so passionate, like I need to do this right now, wouldn't have done it. When we launched, we won like 2 awards right off the bat and had to launch early because we won awards so fast. It was the perfect
Yes.
opportunity for that kind of stuff. So I truly believe, the biggest learning from that that I will always take with me is to one, don't be fearful of things. My like flying out to LA kind of taught me that too, but chase your fear, because if it's something that you fear, that means you love it and you want it that bad. So just do it once and then you won't be afraid of anything anymore. Speaking in front of people,
Yeah.
scared, probably messed up and did silly things. You learn it's not a big deal to mess up.
I love the point that you're making about, in entrepreneurship, especially, like, starting a business. I feel like there's a lot of young people that wanna start companies right now, but they feel like, "I've gotta be that young person that starts the company right now, and I've gotta" get venture capital funding and do this and do that. And there can feel that rush, that actually can be the point of failure. I love just like the patience with which you are like, okay, I'm seeing this problem. Okay, other people have this problem. I'm really like passionate about it. But then just with that patience
And
and eventually like
preparation.
the
Yeah.
right opportunities with the preparation and the studying and everything, it came out of the problem came a
Yeah.
solution that there doesn't have to be that crazy rush and intense energy around being an
Yeah, and if you
entrepreneur.
don't
Yeah.
know what it is yet, I think it's something that I did learn from the Rich Dad Poor Dad books, like when he has like made the Velcro wallet or the Post-it sticky stuff. I mean, you just realize some things what's missing from where you are, and there
Mhm.
was no face grade body care. I mean, we trademarked it so much, we were the first to come out and do it that, like, all the magazines, Vogue, Bazaar was actually saying face grade body care is the new trend of the year. That was actually our trademark. You know what I mean? So we
Mm.
started the entire trend because it was absent. So is it hard
Yeah.
when you do something like that? Yeah, because you have to educate the people then. But listen, look, and see what the opportunity what's missing from your life. I still see so many things like that, and I'm like, "Ugh,
Yeah.
I don't wanna get into another business," but this is still missing, so
I love that it's not a story that you're telling where you're saying, because there were a lot of green lights in your life, but it wasn't just green lights. It's the preparation, it's the patience, it's learning and, like, basically being the best version of yourself in whatever environment that you're in to prepare yourself for these opportunities. And I also love so much that you are a very holistic, total body. Like you listen to your gut, you listen to the signs that your body's giving you, but you combine it with the science. So it's like, I love this so much because the proof is in the pudding. Like anything that you want to do, you can do it if you prepare, and you can do it well if you learn and understand the key ingredients and the environment that you're working in. And I think that's really what sets you so far apart from so many other, entrepreneurs and business owners is that you really took the time to be on the journey fully, like accept all the failures and just prepare yourself for each new opportunity.
Yeah, and, like, I was just about to say, there's a lot of red and yellow lights, whether it was, like, fitness modeling, and I didn't get barely any of the jobs, but I got some great ones, whether it was, my business partner going through a lot of personal things. I'm still friends with her, but, like, it really stalled us for a year or 2 because she just, like, wasn't answering emails and having
Mm.
it not her, fault. There was a lot going on in her personal life. But, like, I could have been like, "Forget it." Then all the other body care brands started coming out. They actually tried to steal our trademarks, and there was a lot of things going on, but I was just like, "You have to ebb and weave and change," and because my parents were so rigid and hated change, I just built this house, okay? Such an opportunity, like, wow, like, my husband and I both put ourselves through school, worked really hard to create our own businesses, had the money to build a house, great. But then people are trying to buy it already because you know how the market is, and we were like, "Okay, if we do it," we just moved in a year ago. We can change. We can pick up and move. We can change businesses. We can do this. We're just like, "No big deal." Someone can hit our car, and we're like, "We'll get it fixed. It's okay." My parents would be like, "It's the end of the world, da, 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 da."
Yeah.
You have to ebb and weave with the red and the yellow lights too, for sure.
It's like being an athlete in life,
Yeah.
having that strength, but also agility and flexibility and, calm and all of the things that, you portray in like Endurance 20 and your other programs. So I honestly feel like we have like a bazillion questions for you. We could just pick your brain all day long, but I know you're very busy. You're a mom, you're an
It's
entrepreneur,
true.
you have a lot of things going on. So we'll kind of start wrapping up our interview. We usually end with like a fast five. Doesn't have to be super fast, but just kind of whatever comes to the top of your mind. And then we'll close out. So Keish, do you want to start with the
Yeah,
first one?
sure. So, of all the hats you've worn throughout your life, which has been your favorite?
My motherhood and being a wife. I love my husband so much, but motherhood's definitely the most hard and rewarding.
And it sounds like it's taught you a lot
Yeah,
about, how to deal with other aspects of life.
it is. It's really, again, they've helped to heal things I didn't even know, cobwebs that were still there and I'm still working on.
And we didn't really get to talk too much about your daughters, but so you adopted your first.
Yeah, I always wanted to adopt, and it was, like, something I always went into relationships with, and my husband was like, "Sure. You never know if you will," but I had 5 years of fertility issues, and we were finally like, "Let's just adopt now."
Well, clearly, for number 2, clearly you wear a lot of hats, you juggle a lot of things. Delegation must be an important part of what you do. What's the most important help or hire that you've made in this process?
One is my relationship with my husband. The most important relationship or hire that you're gonna do, because I really do, I look back now and I'm like, it's a business relationship you have in any relationship, and if you can think about it that way a little bit, it's better than pulling so much emotion into it, like, we're very equal. I've always been the girl like, "That's your dirty laundry. You put the dishes in the dishwasher, either learn it or pay for somebody who does," and so my husband most of the time is like, "I'll just pay for somebody who does." We have support within the house. I really want to focus on my business, especially where it is right now. And I feel lucky enough that I have other people doing
Yeah.
some of the stuff. And
Mhm.
so, you need that support when you can financially as the business grows.
Favorite healthy meal to make?
I mean, I don't really have one. I'm the girl that always makes something different. Like even for Christmas holidays, whether it's healthy or not healthy, I'll make it. We have a big family here. My husband's whole family is here, nieces and nephews and stuff, brothers, sisters. And so they're always like, "Can you make what you made last year?" And I'm like, "No, we're just gonna make something new on the fly too." Like I don't
Yeah.
try it beforehand. But I love to cook.
Love
Sundays, I
it.
like to meal prep on Sundays.
Love it. Very creative. What's like a recent favorite book, podcast, or source of information or inspiration?
Oh, let me go grab it. It's sitting right here. It's Kimberly Snyder's new book. Actually, it's
I
on my
love
podcast
her.
and she'll be on my podcast next week. And it was so cool. It's called You Are More Than You Think You Are. And she's come out with tons of nutritional books. So she used to be on set and she had a bunch of
Mhm.
celebrities. She's a nutritionist. And the amazing part that I learned from her is that she breaks down the tools kind of like we're talking about to heal yourself, get the most out of your life, figure it all out. And it's just so beautiful and relatable and beautiful lessons from healers from all different times, and different religions and different practices. And it's just a gorgeous book. So Kimberly Snyder, You Are More Than You Think You Are. Favorite book of the year, I can tell you
Love it.
already.
I'll link it. Ah, so good.
Okay. So I'm very curious about this. With everything that's going on, being a mom, having multiple businesses, how do you stay organized with your time?
Calendar. I mean, I try and calendar everything in. So even my workouts, like I still calendar in. Like meal prep, I know is Sundays too. The little time that I have, like on the weekends, I just go and work out when the baby's napping, any meetings and just knowing like the kids' schedules because I have to work around that basically. So I just have to nail it all in.
Yeah, kinda like Steve Jobs with his, turtleneck sweaters, like the things that you can kind of put on autopilot. It's like, think about it, be mindful about the preparation, but then create a system where you don't have to make each decision with each moment. So we have one final question we like to ask if we have time. What was one quality that you had as a young woman that maybe you didn't take pride in or appreciate back then, but that now when you're looking back, you're really proud of and you have love for?
I was always strong. I mean, I look back, and even though I actually thought I was the weak one, where I was like, I'm going to go find friends with the biggest, meanest looking burly girls. And I really did to like protect me. I look back at even younger years and I'll tell you a super funny story. But like I told you about my one girlfriend, she's still my best friend. And in the bathroom, the girl's flicking water and trying to fight. And I was like, thanks, my hair looks great like this. Now I need you to back away from her. Or like in like 5th grade, I went to an all Christian school for 1 year, or 6th grade, and I had 5 people in my class total. 2 little boys who I not derogatory, but they were the sweetest little dorky kids in 2 completely different ways. Like one was like, at my shoulder. So they're the sweetest boys. But one came up to me and he had like 4 blue balls in his hand. And I remember him, he was like, I got 6 balls. And I just took one and I just tossed it at him and, like, knocked him over or something like that, and he, like, dropped everything, fell to the ground. I was like, "Now you don't have
That's
any."
like out of a
And
movie.
I can't even believe I was just the sweetest,
Yeah.
quietest if you knew
Yeah.
who I was, like,
Had it in
I
you.
can't believe, but I guess I always was a pretty I didn't even know what balls were. Sorry, everybody out
Yeah.
there. But I don't even know how I knew what that was at that point, and I guess I was always a strong little chick.
I
So
love
it's
it.
just in me.
Well, I love that story to end on. So cute, so funny, and so powerful. We had I mean, this has been such a great conversation. We so appreciate your time, Christine. To our audience, Christine Bullock, we will
Thanks, everybody.
link all sorts of different things that she has to offer and some of the books that we mentioned and whatnot.
Yes.
But thank you, Christine, for being here, and we can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure.
And that's our show. If you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe to, follow, and share Meet Bridget with your circle. The best way to help our work here is to rate and review our podcast. We're listening and constantly working to build something helpful for you. Catch you next time.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?